Beneath the stillness of night, your mind drifts outward. Each star overhead holds the quiet possibility of a world like ours. The search for exoplanets begins with a question: are we alone in the dark? Tonight, you begin to listen, not with ears, but with wonder. Full chapter body, 1,200 words. You lie back beneath the quiet sky, where stars blink like ancient thoughts stitched into the dark. The air is still. The world around you has hushed its daytime urgency. All that remains is breath, slow and patient, and the hush between heartbeats. Up there, scattered across the vault of night, are suns, not so different from our own, and around many of them, unseen, quiet travelers may orbit in silence. You begin to wonder how many of those distant pinpricks cradle planets. How many of those worlds carry oceans, clouds, or winds brushing softly across unknown stones. For so long, we looked up and believed our solar system was special. We imagined a lonely sun, with a family of 8, now sometimes 9, circling obediently. But the universe whispered otherwise, and we started to listen. The story of exoplanets, planets beyond our solar system, begins not with telescopes, but with longing, a desire to understand what lies beyond. To know whether the Earth is rare, or just one petal in an endless cosmic field. That yearning became a question. And that question, are we alone, became science. You close your eyes, and the darkness behind your eyelids expands into imagination. Picture a single beam of starlight traveling across unfathomable distance. That light is a messenger, bearing clues from another sun. By studying how it dims, even slightly, astronomers can tell whether a planet is passing in front, casting the faintest of shadows, like watching a gnat flit across a lighthouse lamp from miles away. This is the transit method, one of the first ways we began finding exoplanets. A star flickers, and we lean in. A dip in brightness, again and again, with perfect rhythm, not random, not noise. A whisper from a world orbiting far beyond. Now picture another method, the radial velocity technique, not watching the light, but listening to its shifts. A star wobbles, pulled gently by the gravity of its unseen planet. The wobble stretches the light's wavelength, subtly changing its color, red, then blue, then red again, like a breath drawn in and out. From that breath, we measure presence. You might imagine this as a dance. The planet and the star hold hands across distance. The planet pulls softly, shyly. The star follows, just a little. And in that movement, we learn they are not alone. They are partners. The first confirmed exoplanet was found in the 1990s, a strange massive body orbiting its star too closely, far hotter than Mercury, heavier than Jupiter. We called it a hot Jupiter, and it defied everything we expected. It spun science on its axis. If such giants could hug their suns so tightly, what else might be possible? And suddenly, the sky opened wider. Telescopes like Kepler joined the search eyes in the heavens, designed to gaze without blinking. Over its lifetime, Kepler revealed thousands of planets, some scorched, some frozen, some in gentle temperate orbits, what we call the habitable zone, where liquid water might exist, not too hot, not too cold. A Goldilocks region, where life as we know it might one day breathe. You imagine these worlds, their surfaces unknown, their atmospheres invisible. Perhaps there are red skies there, or twin moons that rise in unison. Maybe rains fall in metallic drops, or oceans swirl with liquid methane instead of water. Each one is a story untold, a possibility untested. You feel the wonder of it, the idea that somewhere, light years away, a world rotates under the gaze of its star, unseen by eyes, untouched by probe or rover, yet known to us only through light and math. This is the quiet triumph of the human mind, to pull secrets from silence. And now, a new generation of instruments rises. The James Webb Space Telescope peers deeper still. It studies atmospheres. It looks for the faint chemical fingerprints of life, oxygen, methane, carbon dioxide. Not proof, but possibility. You exhale slowly, letting your thoughts drift. If another species out there had telescopes like ours, what would they see? Would they catch Earth's dim flicker as it crosses the sun? Would they hear our planet's gravitational hum and wonder about the blue and green marble that caused it? Perhaps they too are lying beneath their stars, dreaming of us. Still, it's important to remember, most exoplanets we find are not Earth-like. Some are scorched gas giants, some are icy, barren rocks, many whirled in tight orbits that would bake their surfaces. The universe is not crafted for comfort, it simply is, and yet among so many planets, hope persists, because where there is diversity, there is potential. The process of discovery is slow. Years may pass between a flicker of data and a confident confirmation, and yet we wait. Because each confirmed planet is a line in the great story of the cosmos, a verse added to the song of not being alone. And so as you lie here in the stillness, remember what begins as science is always lit by wonder. The drive to map the cosmos comes not only from logic, but from longing, from curiosity curled deep in the human spirit. You let that feeling rest in your chest, quiet but wide. You picture the scientists across the world, tuning their instruments, writing code, analyzing light curves, all united in the same act, listening for a whisper in the dark. And just like that, the sky becomes a field of questions. Each star, a doorway. Each planet a maybe, and somewhere someday, perhaps a yes. Let that possibility linger like a hush before sleep. The sense that something awaits, that the silence is not empty, but full of listening, that your next breath might bring you closer to it. You float quietly in a sea of black velvet, speckled with starlight. Out here, light travels for years to find you. Stars shimmer steadily, each a distant sun with its own story, its own chorus of planets, and yet your gaze settles on one particular star. It flickers just barely, a soft blink, as though the cosmos is winking. That's it. That faint dip in brightness is the clue. The star hasn't changed, something has passed in front of it. You're not seeing a planet directly, you're seeing the pause in starlight it leaves behind. This is the transit method, and it's how thousands of exoplanets have been discovered. You begin to imagine it, a small world orbiting a distant star, its silhouette brushing against the light like a moth flitting past a lantern. For a few hours the star dims, ever so slightly, the difference smaller than a snowflake landing on a burning ember. It happens again and again. The pattern is steady, repeating. The rhythm of an unseen world orbiting like clockwork. From millions of miles away, you've learned to see not by presence but by absence. Seeing in the dark, you drift closer in thought, picturing the instruments that make this possible. A telescope, vast, sensitive, patient. It stares at the same patch of sky for weeks, months, even years. It listens with light, and you, watching from afar, become part of its stillness. You understand now. This is not a game of eyes but of shadows. You don't hunt for planets. You wait for them to reveal themselves. But not every planet crosses in front of its star. Many orbit just out of alignment, hiding their silhouettes from view. For those, scientists listen in a different way, tuning in to the wobble of the star itself, because planets have gravity too. As a planet orbits, it tugs gently on its star, pulling it in a slow, subtle dance. The star wobbles not much, but enough, just like you might sway if a child clung to your arm and spun around you. From Earth, that wobble changes the light we receive, shifting the star's spectrum ever so slightly, like a song that wavers in pitch. This is the radial velocity method. It doesn't rely on shadow, it relies on motion, on a star's quiet shiver, repeating over and over. You imagine it now, starlight split into a rainbow, examined for tiny shifts. A red drift, then blue. Red then blue, a signal hidden in the color, whispering the presence of a companion. Your senses sharpen. You realize we're not just watching light, we're decoding the music of gravity. Every planet is a note. Some are booming bass large, gaseous giants pulling fiercely on their stars. Others are delicate flutes, small, rocky, Earth-like bodies, harder to detect, yet more familiar to us. You picture a scientist, leaning over a graph in the quiet of night. A curve dips, a spectrum shifts, a discovery blooms not through light, but through its dance. There's more. Some exoplanets are found through gravitational microlensing. When a star passes in front of another, its gravity bending the light like a lens. If a planet orbits the closer star, it too distorts the background light. The pattern becomes more than a ripple, it's a signature, like spotting a fingerprint in a drop of water. Microlensing is rare, unpredictable, and fleeting, but when it happens, it opens a window to distant planets we'd never find otherwise. You imagine watching one unfold, a sudden brightening in the sky, then a curve, a dip, a flicker, a distant world, momentarily outlined by light's warping path. Each method is an invitation to wonder. Not one of them shows you the planet itself. And yet you believe, you see through absence. You trust the language of data, the quiet testimony of motion and shade. This, you realize, is the art of astronomy, not the gaze, but the waiting, not the eye, but the mind. There are now thousands of known exoplanets. Some orbit searing hot stars in tight, fast loops. Others wander far from their suns in deep, cold arcs. Some are made of gas, with no surface at all. Others may be rocky, with oceans, clouds, winds, places that stir your imagination. A few sit in just the right zone, not too hot, not too cold, the habitable zone, like Earth. Could they harbor life? You don't know, but you listen, you observe. You let the universe whisper its secrets through these silent dances of light and gravity. Even in the darkness, you are not blind. You learn to see without seeing. You learn to find without touching. You remember that the stars above you are not alone. They carry companions, planets, worlds, each one waiting to be noticed in its own quiet way. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to imagine the way scientists do, to feel your place in this grand method of discovery, where darkness is not empty, but filled with possibility. What you cannot see directly, you can sense. What you cannot touch, you can trace. Even in a void, knowledge grows. Even in silence, something speaks. And as you float once more in the velvet night, your thoughts begin to drift toward a new question. If we can find these worlds by watching their stars, what else can starlight tell us about the planets we cannot see? You drift now, slowly across a gentle spiral of light. The sun hums beneath you, a golden hearth in the dark. Its warmth radiates outward like breath, soft and steady into the velvet cold. You are not rushing, you're gliding, watching, and soon you arrive at a place that feels comfortable. This is the Goldilocks zone, a region not too near, not too far from a star, a ring of distance where temperatures might allow water, that cradle of life, to remain liquid. The air here feels quiet, balanced, as if the universe paused for just a moment to get things right. The idea is simple, yet wondrous. Too close to a star, and a planet sizzles, oceans boil, atmospheres burn away. Too far, and the cold grips tightly, freezing hope into stillness. But somewhere in between lies a gentle band of possibility, a ribbon of cosmic real estate, where warmth lingers just long enough for rivers to run, for clouds to rain, for lakes to ripple. And here Earth spins suspended in that slender thread of warmth. Not by accident, not by design, but by the quiet mathematics of gravity and light. Its orbit, its tilt, its breathing atmosphere, all align to hold this fragile balance. It is neither paradise nor perfection, but it is enough. You picture Venus not far from Earth, yet so different. She once may have had oceans too, but nestled too close to the sun's embrace. She overheated. Her clouds now are thick with acid. Her surface bakes beneath an endless greenhouse of heat. It is a place where metal melts and time seems to stop. Too hot. Then you drift outward, past Earth, past Mars. The red planet lies farther from the warmth, and its rivers, once alive, are now etched in silence. Its thin air cannot hold the sun's gentle touch. The water fled or froze, tucked away in polar ice and underground whispers. Too cold, but Earth is neither extreme. Its surface is a mosaic of blues and greens, browns and whites. It breathes its storms, it sings with seasons. Rain falls, oceans swell, glaciers creak, deserts shimmer, and everywhere water moves. Liquid water, that humble molecule, so simple, so vital. It dissolves, it carries, it nourishes, it wraps itself around life and lets it grow. And for water to flow, the temperature must be just right. Not boiling, not freezing, but somewhere in the middle. And so Earth holds its breath within this narrow band of possibility. The Goldilocks zone is more than a distance. It is a story of balance, of atmosphere and pressure, of clouds and currents, of carbon and cycles. A planet in this zone still needs many gifts: a magnetic field to shield from solar wind, a stable rotation, an atmosphere thick enough to hold heat, thin enough to breathe, and most of all, time, billions of years of relative calm. You begin to wonder, is Earth unique, or are there other planets, circling other stars, in their own just right zones? The answer drifts between certainty and mystery. We know of many exoplanets now, worlds far away, orbiting distant suns. Some are giants, some are small, some dance close to twin stars, others wobble in the dark. Among them, astronomers have found planets in their stars' Goldilocks zones. Kepler 186, orbiting a red dwarf. TRAPPIST-10, one of 7 siblings. They may have oceans, they may have skies, but do they have the delicate orchestration Earth enjoys? You imagine floating through those alien atmospheres, tasting the air, dipping your hand into unfamiliar seas. Would they feel like home? Would they carry the same rhythm of rain, the same scent of soil after a storm? Earth's song is complex. It is tuned by volcanism, by tectonics, by the breathing of forests and the sigh of algae in the sea. It is regulated by clouds drifting lazily, by polar ice reflecting light. Every factor, every flicker of change, adjusts the balance, and yet it holds. The sun too plays its part. Not too young, not too old. Its light steady, its flares modest. Had it been smaller, Earth would need to huddle closer. Had it been larger, its lifespan might burn out before life could truly begin. So many stars, so many chances, and yet even in the Goldilocks zone, the odds are long. Too many variables, too many unknowns. Still, with each discovery, each new planet spotted in the quiet dark, hope grows, a quiet, steady flame. Perhaps Earth is not rare. Perhaps it is one verse in a cosmic poem. Perhaps life hums softly across the galaxy, cradled in oceans under alien skies. Or perhaps this planet, this warm blue dot, is a miracle of balance. You feel a sense of gratitude now, a gentle awe at the stability beneath your feet. So much could have been different. So many paths could have led to silence. And yet here you are, floating through a chapter of deep equilibrium. The Goldilocks zone is not a guarantee. It is an invitation, a possibility that must be nurtured. And Earth has answered that invitation with forests, with coral reefs, with songs of birds at dawn. As you drift back from the cosmic window, one question lingers like mist on a morning field. If warmth makes life possible, then what happens when a planet begins to change, and warmth becomes too much? There are planets that spin like ours, with days and nights, storms and skies. Some have mountains, clouds, maybe even rain tapping on alien leaves. You imagine a second Earth, turning in the quiet, not a copy, but a twin with its own secrets. What would it feel like to stand there, to breathe its air? The stars blink gently above you, and you feel the hush of distance. Far away, further than your breath can reach, further than memory, there turns a planet, unseen. It spins slowly, like ours does, caught in the rhythm of a sun not our own. One side warms in daylight, the other rests in the dark, a world in motion, like a lullaby, repeating forever. You close your eyes and picture it, a sky you do not recognize. Maybe a shade of green, maybe violet, or maybe familiar blue. Clouds drift across it, pulled by winds shaped by unfamiliar air. The sunlight is warmer, or paler, or thicker, pressing through an atmosphere with its own voice. And beneath that sky, a surface crumpled by ancient mountains, or flat as glass. A place that has never known your name, but still feels oddly gentle, oddly welcoming. This is what scientists call an exoplanet, a planet orbiting a star beyond our sun. Thousands have been found, scattered across the dark, each a quiet question. Most are too hot, too cold, too strange, but some seem just right. They orbit at the right distance, the habitable zone, not too near, not too far, where liquid water, if it exists, could pool and shimmer and fall as rain. Water not just a liquid, but a whisper of life, a mirror of possibility. If water runs there, if clouds form and burst, if rivers carve lonely paths, then maybe life has had a chance to bloom. You imagine walking there, your feet pressing softly into alien soil. Is it dust? Is it soft and red like Mars, or dark and dense like volcanic ash? You feel the wind push against your skin, cooler, thinner, maybe heavier than Earth's. It smells different, clean or sharp or metallic, and the plants, if there are any, are not green. They've adapted to their star's light, perhaps reflecting purple, or black, or gold. The idea isn't fantasy, it's science stretching into wonder. We've found exoplanets with rocky surfaces, similar gravity, even hints of atmosphere. We watch them from afar, through telescopes that see not with eyes, but with patterns and shadows. Light dips when a planet passes its star. Spectral fingerprints tell us what gases float in the air. And slowly, softly, a picture forms. There's one, Kepler 442, a rocky world orbiting a small orange star. It's larger than Earth, but not too big, and it sits in just the right place. Its sun warming it gently, not too harsh, not too cold. It might have clouds, it might have rain, it might have silence broken only by wind. Then there's TRAPPIST-1, a system of 7 planets, 7 sisters turning in perfect rhythm. Some are likely dry, some frozen, but 1 or 2 might hold oceans. Imagine standing there, watching 6 other worlds rise in your sky like moons. Imagine knowing your world is not alone, that your sky holds family. You drift with the thought how strange and beautiful another planet's sunset might be. Perhaps the sun sets in shades of coral and emerald. Perhaps the stars blink into view, more slowly, fewer of them, or many more. Perhaps there are no birds, only the sigh of wind through strange leaves. You wonder what it would feel like to sleep there. Would you dream the same dreams? Would your body feel lighter or heavier, cradled by new gravity? Would the air thinner or richer, carry your breath differently? Would silence sound different, deeper, more hollow, more sacred? You are not the only one who dreams of these things. Across the world, scientists build machines to listen and look. The James Webb Space Telescope peers into the past, gathering echoes of distant suns. It looks for tiny signals, methane, oxygen, water vapor, molecules of life or life's memory. Each discovery is a hush, a pause, a widening of the heart. Could it be? Is this the place? Even if we never go there, even if our feet never touch those distant soils, these planets reshape our sense of home. They remind us that Earth is not the only cradle, that the quiet of space is not empty, but full of unopened doors. In your mind, you kneel beside an alien river. The water moves slowly, reflecting 2 suns or maybe none. Your fingers touch it. It's cold, clean. It carries no name, but it welcomes you. You look up, and above you the sky is wide and full of stories you don't know yet. Stars scatter across it, some of them warming other worlds, other lives, perhaps. It makes your breath slow, your heart soft. You feel something familiar in the strangeness. Not fear, not awe, but something gentler, curiosity wrapped in calm. And as the imagined sun sets behind imagined hills, You wonder if someone somewhere is looking toward our pale blue dot and imagining you. You are drifting, not falling, not flying, just suspended in the quiet hush of space, like a leaf held still in a moment of windless calm. Around you, the stars hang like silent guardians, but your focus is pulled gently toward a distant blue light. It is Earth. Not just a planet, not just rock and ocean and cloud, but a breathing sphere, wrapped in something unseen, something protective and ancient. You feel it before you understand it, a soft magnetic cradle that hums with invisible strength. This field, Earth's magnetosphere, is no simple barrier. It is a living shield, born from the churning core of molten metal beneath your feet. Deep below the crust, iron flows like a slow subterranean river, creating electric currents. And these currents, in turn, give rise to a magnetic field, one so wide it reaches far beyond the clouds, stretching tens of thousands of kilometers into space. It's as if the planet exhales a bubble around itself, not of air, but of safety. A hushed barrier that deflects solar winds, high-speed particles launched from the sun like arrows from a cosmic bow. Without this field, Earth's atmosphere would slowly erode, stripped away like sand in a storm. But here, inside this magnetic shell, life endures. You close your eyes and drift again, leaving Earth's quiet breath behind, moving outward to other worlds. The question whispers, what about them? Mars appears, red and still, like a forgotten ember in a cold fire. Long ago, it too had a magnetic field. Evidence lies frozen in the rocks, minerals magnetized in ancient patterns, but its core cooled, solidified. The molten movement ceased, and the field disappeared. Now, the solar wind strikes directly, and the Martian sky offers no true breath. Its atmosphere, once thick enough for rivers to run, has been thinned to a fragile wisp. The air here is not enough. You hover above it, feeling the silence. It's a lesson written in dust. A planet may have land and even water, but without shelter from the storm, it cannot keep its breath. Next, you drift toward Venus, Earth's sister, cloaked in cloud. The air here is thick, dense with carbon dioxide, and laced with acid. It presses against the planet with 90 times the pressure of Earth's atmosphere, like the weight of the deep ocean pressing on the seafloor. Venus has no magnetic field, either not like Earth's. Some scientists think it spins too slowly, others believe its core behaves differently. Still, it manages to hold onto its thick atmosphere, not through magnetism, but through sheer mass. The clouds form a different kind of shield, one that wraps the planet in a smothering embrace. But you notice something. Though Venus keeps its breath, it's not one you can inhale. The air is too harsh, too hot, too heavy. Here the shelter does not nurture, it traps, so you drift again. Now, out beyond the frost line, where sunlight becomes a memory and ice reigns, you come to the gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. These are not rocky worlds, not places to stand, but they are wrapped in majestic, powerful magnetospheres, enormous and complex. Jupiter's magnetic field is the strongest in the solar system. It spins rapidly, and its molten metallic hydrogen core generates a shield so vast it could fit all the other planets inside it. Auroras dance constantly at its poles, like ghostly ribbons of light reacting to the solar wind. But no surface lies beneath, only deepening layers of gas, pressure, and mystery. Jupiter breathes in its own way, but it is not a breath we can share. You pause there, feeling the pull of comparison. Earth is neither the most massive nor the most magnetic. Yet somehow, it offers exactly what life needs, not just gravity and warmth, but a sky that holds its breath, a field that fends off the fury of space. And this realization brings you home again, not to land or sea, but to the envelope of gases you live within. You inhale, slowly. This air is not random. It is held here not simply by gravity, but by the careful balance of shield and spin, warmth and distance, chemistry and chance. Without the magnetosphere, solar particles would strip away this balance. Ultraviolet radiation would shatter molecules, oxygen might vanish, water too. life exposed, would falter not because the ground failed, but because the sky did. So you look up. You imagine this invisible bubble, not as a border, but as a womb, an unseen but essential part of what makes Earth alive. A soft hum of protection, a magnetic lullaby. And you wonder, could other worlds create such cradles? Some exoplanets far off, unseen by eye, are giants close to their stars, tidally locked, blasted by constant radiation. Others lie in the Goldilocks zone, where warmth allows for water, but do they have fields? Do they breathe? Astronomers search for answers. They look for radio signals that hint at magnetic fields. They model atmospheres and magnetic loss. They ask, can a world keep its air long enough for life to take root? It's a delicate question because breath is not just molecules, it is time, protection, balance. And these things are harder to hold than rock. You float a little longer in the dark, contemplating the fragility of atmospheres, the sheer luck or miracle that Earth's has endured. You think of the core spinning quietly below, the outer layers swirling above, the winds of the sun flaring outward. And in the midst of all that, this thin envelope, held like a secret, like a promise. It is easy to forget, from the ground, that this protection exists. You cannot see the magnetic field, you cannot touch it. But it is always there, a quiet presence between you and the vastness of space. You take one more breath, and then another. The air tastes like safety, like evolution, like memory. And yet, a question stirs. If a planet breathes, could it also dream? Could the conditions for life not only protect, but imagine? Could a world not only hold its air, but its own story? And so, with these thoughts gently trailing behind you, you drift once more. Light bends through alien atmospheres, and in those hues are hidden truths. Oxygen, methane, carbon, familiar notes in unfamiliar skies. You follow spectral trails like a dream detective, sniffing out signs of life. Every color holds a secret. Every wavelength, a whisper. The telescope hums in your mind like a quiet instrument, tuned not to music but to light. You drift in thought beside it, weightless and watching, as it peers into the dark. Far beyond the stars you see with your eyes, it searches for something subtler, the gentle arc of starlight as it filters through distant invisible skies. These skies are not our own. They belong to exoplanets, worlds untethered to Earth, orbiting suns light years away. Most are unseen by eye. But when their planets pass in front of their stars, a thread of starlight bends through their atmospheres, carrying with it a story told in color. The process is called spectroscopy, but tonight it feels more like dream work. You imagine yourself holding a prism to a star, letting it break into its elemental truths. Each light wave, stretched or squeezed by gases it's passed through, becomes a language, one of whispers and echoes. And you, the listener, in one planet's light, there is water vapor. In another, methane. Somewhere, there's oxygen. Each molecule scatters and absorbs light in its own pattern, its own fingerprint. You don't need to see the planet itself, just the way its atmosphere changes the star behind it. The star becomes a canvas, and the planet, a veil of pigments. It's like finding perfume on a letter, never meant for you, intimate, distant, and impossibly revealing. You float through wavelengths now, each one like a corridor in a vast observatory of time and chemistry. Red light glides slowly, long waves that curl like silk. Blue flickers fast, urgent and sharp, slipping between molecules. And in the middle, golden greens and dusky violets, whisper of carbon dioxide, ammonia, hydrogen, or perhaps something stranger. Not all atmospheres are welcoming. Some contain clouds of sulfuric acid, or storms that rain molten glass sideways. But others, just a few, show signs of balance, of potential, of the delicate equilibrium that might cradle life. Your attention drifts to biosignatures, chemical clues that hint at biological processes. On Earth, for instance, life reshapes our air. Oxygen, for one, is wildly reactive and doesn't last long without something constantly making it, like plants, like cyanobacteria. So when we see oxygen in another planet's atmosphere, especially alongside methane, which oxygen should destroy, we pause. We wonder, could something be breathing? But even this is not proof. Methane might rise from volcanic vents. Oxygen might come from light breaking apart water molecules. False positives are everywhere in the universe. And yet, hope hums beneath the data. You press deeper into your thoughts, deeper into the prism of light. Each spectral dip and peak becomes a lullaby of possibility. You imagine a planet thick with violet skies and twin suns, where bioluminescent forests exhale a trace of methane each dusk. Another world, perhaps tidally locked, where one side always bakes in sunlight, its atmosphere churning in slow, thunderous circles. Somewhere in this quiet, a truth begins to take shape, not one of certainty, but of wonder. You don't need confirmation to feel the beauty of the question. Because here in the dark, science and hope are siblings, and your instruments so far from the soil beneath your feet are tracing dreams made of physics. You think of the James Webb Space Telescope, floating like a golden mirror flower in the void, its eyes wide to infrared. It peers where you cannot, sensing the heat of ancient galaxies and newborn stars. But it also watches these alien transits, measuring the faintest shadows and sips of starlight, trying to decode them like poetry. And you remember that each spectrum is more than data. It is light that left its star before you were born, that passed through a planet's breath, that traveled for years, decades, centuries, only to arrive here and touch a mirror and become a signal, and now become a thought in your mind. This intimacy spans light years. You imagine being on such a world, looking up. Perhaps someone or something looks up too. Do they wonder? Do they look toward their star and catch a hint of Earth just as you glimpse them? Perhaps not. Perhaps they are silence, but perhaps they are listening, just as you are. The chapter deepens like dusk. In this fading light, you let yourself drift between possibilities. You are no longer just a watcher, you are a participant in a great unfolding. A gardener of signs, a collector of whispers. And even though you cannot touch these worlds, you can know something of their air, their temperature, their chemistry, just from light. It feels like magic, but it is science. It feels like fiction, but it is measurable fact. It feels like you're close to something. Your breath slows as the sky stretches around you. There are thousands of exoplanets now, maybe millions more to come. Each one with its own path, its own weather, its own color. You drift between them, like a feather on a current of light. Behind every spectrum is a question, could something live here? Behind that question, always could something be looking back? You turn toward the next idea, not quite ready, not quite certain, but curious, and follow the last fading wavelengths into thought. For where there is a pattern in the noise, a shape in the shadow, there might be more than chemistry. There might be intention. You drift now through a slower current in space, coasting beside giants. They loom like ancient sentinels, their gravity wide and deep, curling the fabric of the solar system like wind through a forest. The largest among them, Jupiter, turns slowly in the distance, banded with browns and creams, its storms older than memory, its presence unmistakable. You are small beside it, but not insignificant. Jupiter doesn't burn like the sun. It could have long ago, if it had gathered just a little more mass enough to spark fusion, but instead it grew vast without fire, a kind of failed star, and in that failure, it found another kind of power, because Jupiter is not just big, it is protective, sweeping its arms' long gravity tendrils across the system. Thousands of asteroids pass near, yet many are flung away by this giant's motion, caught in its pull and spun out of harm's path. They say Jupiter may have shielded Earth in its infancy, not perfectly, but often enough. Imagine that a planet not just for itself, but for the shaping of others, not a destroyer, though it could be, but a guardian. Its moons are a world unto themselves. Over 70 orbit Jupiter, but 4 stand out: the Galilean moons, discovered by Galileo centuries ago with a telescope barely stronger than binoculars. You pause at each one, like stepping stones around a great lake. Io first. a volcanic world. You hover over a landscape in motion, sulfur plumes rising skyward, surface rippling with molten rock. It's alive, but not in a way you'd call gentle, more like a world constantly being born and unmade. Then Europa, and here the breath slows. A smooth shell of ice, veined like cracked glass, hides an ocean beneath, a global ocean vast, dark and maybe warm. Its surface is quiet, cold, and alien, but underneath, there may be heat from tidal forces, where Jupiter's pull kneads the moon like dough, and where there's warmth, and water, and time there could be life. You imagine swimming beneath that shell, not with your body, but with thought floating through briny depths untouched by sunlight, listening for whispers of chemistry unfolding in silence. You drift on to Ganymede, the largest moon in the solar system, bigger than Mercury. It has a magnetic field, an echo of planetary traits. It too may hide an ocean, far below its icy crust. It doesn't shout for attention, but sighs and silence both speak in other ways. Finally Callisto cratered, aged, quiet. It has seen billions of years pass, without much change. No oceans perhaps, but a memory of stability, of time folded patiently into rock. You are floating now not just beside planets, but among their legacies. Jupiter is not alone in this story. Saturn waits next, with its rings like whispers etched in crystal and moons of its own, Titan thick with orange haze, lakes not of water but methane. Its atmosphere is dense, its weather cold and strange, yet it rains. It has rivers, deltas, shorelines, a world sculpted not by warmth, but by chemistry in chill, and Enceladus, small gleaming, with jets that spray from its south pole like icy geysers. Scientists have flown spacecraft through those jets and tasted water salted, with organic molecules inside. Another ocean moon, hiding under a crust, flinging pieces of itself into the sky. What kind of story might those droplets tell? You begin to sense a pattern, that where warmth might fail, motion can still spark mystery, that not all life-supporting havens must look like Earth. Some are cold, cloaked and distant, yet possibly alive. These moons, these companions of gas giants, live in orbit yet wield their own secrets. Their homes are borrowed, but not lesser. And so you begin to wonder, is a planet the only place one might belong? Is being central the same as being vital? In the quiet of space, those questions hang like Saturn's rings suspended in grace. The giants themselves, Jupiter and Saturn, Uranus and Neptune, do not have solid surfaces. If you tried to land, you'd sink into their atmospheres, disappearing into pressure and cloud. Yet their existence gives shape to everything around them. They capture rogue asteroids, they shepherd icy comets, they influence the tilt and dance of smaller worlds. Without them, the solar system would look and behave very differently. Some believe that Earth without Jupiter might not have survived the early chaos. Too many collisions, too many fiery ends. Jupiter may have absorbed them, diverted them, taken the brunt of the storm. You may never stand on Jupiter, but you owe it thanks. The thought ripples outward, that perhaps the things you cannot touch are still part of your safety. That sometimes what looks dangerous is, in truth, protective. There is comfort in these unseen roles. In moons that warm themselves through motion, in planets that clear the way without praise, in oceans that whisper far beneath the ice. Not all homes are loud, not all guardians ask to be seen. You drift now in the spaces between, not empty, but layered, with gravity, with potential, with quiet echoing movement. These are the outskirts of what we used to call the habitable zone. Yet again and again, they show us something new, that life might bloom in places we once dismissed as too cold, too far, too strange. What else, you wonder, hides in the folds of darkness? The next world lies not in orbit, but further out. A dwarf planet, at the edge of sunlight, small, icy and mysterious. Pluto calls softly through the dark, and your journey bends toward the forgotten corners of the solar system. You begin by holding a single breath. Just one. In that breath lives the question that has stirred human hearts for centuries. Are we alone? Not in the dramatic sense, not green-skinned visitors or silver saucers in the sky, but in the quiet question of possibility. Could life exist beyond Earth? Not as we know it, but as it might be? You picture a moon, far from the warmth of the sun. Its surface is nothing but ice, pale and cracked, frozen solid in the grip of a lonely orbit around a giant planet. This is Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, and beneath its icy shell lies something astonishing. An ocean, salt water, deep and dark and warmed from within by tidal forces. The idea feels like a secret, not life basking in sunshine, but life in shadow, perhaps huddled near hydrothermal vents, where warmth seeps from the rocky floor like breath in cold air. To understand this, you turn inward back to Earth. You travel down deep into the ocean's own abyss, past the sunlight, past the twilight, into the pitch-dark black. There, among superheated jets of mineral-rich water, you find them extremophiles. Tiny organisms, simple and strong. They do not need sunlight. They feed on chemicals, thrive in boiling water, clutch the very bones of the earth and say, "We belong." Elsewhere, life blooms in acid. In lakes so salty they crack the crust with crystal. In frozen deserts of Antarctica, where life survives in bubbles trapped beneath thick ice. Some bacteria can even sleep for millennia, hidden inside rocks or buried in permafrost, waiting for warmth, for water, for anything. And suddenly the idea of life on Europa doesn't feel so strange. If life can thrive in Earth's harshest places, could it not do so elsewhere? You imagine tiny cells beneath Europa's crust. Maybe they drift like snowflakes in the dark ocean. Maybe they cluster near warmth, near minerals, their metabolism slow, their rhythm ancient. Perhaps they are not even carbon-based. Perhaps they are something stranger with chemistry we've never tasted. Then your thoughts drift outward, past Jupiter, past Saturn to another moon, Enceladus. It's smaller than Europa, quieter, but it too hides an ocean beneath its crust. And unlike Europa, Enceladus speaks. From cracks near its southern pole it sprays jets of water vapor and ice into space like a whisper, like breath on a winter morning. The Cassini spacecraft flew through those plumes, tasting their chemistry. It found salt, organics, heat, not proof of life but potential, a chemistry that hints, that beckons gently. Look again. You float now, softly through the atmosphere of Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Here the air is thick and orange, methane rains down in slow drizzles. There are rivers and lakes not of water, but liquid hydrocarbons. Cold, alien, and yet lakes just the same. Could something swim here? Not water-based life, but something else entirely, something that breathes methane, that builds cell walls from chemistry we can scarcely imagine. You drift higher, to gas giants like Jupiter and Saturn. You picture their thick atmospheres, layered and roiling with storms. Could floating life exist there, light enough to hover in upper layers, feeding on trace chemicals? Carl Sagan once wondered this, imagining floaters and sinkers and hunters in the clouds of Jupiter. It was speculation, but not without grounding. Where energy flows, life might emerge. Back on Earth, even clouds are not lifeless. We've found microbes drifting in the sky, carried on winds, sleeping in droplets. Life, it seems, is not picky. It moves, it waits, it endures. So you begin to ask not where life might be, but where it might hide. In the cracks of icy moons, in underground lakes on Mars, in the shadows of distant exoplanets, circling stars we barely know, or even in the darkness between riding comets, sleeping in dust. This idea, panspermia, suggests life could travel, frozen and dormant from world to world, carried on the backs of asteroids, spread like seeds in a cosmic wind. It is not proven, but neither is it impossible. The building blocks of life, amino acids, sugars, even simple proteins, have been found in meteorites, in interstellar gas, in comets. Life, it seems, or the ingredients of it, is not a local recipe. It's written into the universe itself. And so you listen more carefully, to the chemistry of strange places, to the temperatures and pressures that once seemed hostile but now feel accommodating. You realize something quiet, that the search for life is also a search for humility. It's a softening of certainty, a willingness to wonder without answers. You let go of the image of alien civilizations and instead hold the image of a single cell dividing in darkness, feeding, moving, changing, maybe not intelligent, maybe not even complex, but alive. And that somehow is enough. Because life in its simplest form is an echo of what we are, persistent, adaptive, full of potential. So you lie still, cradling the idea that the universe may be full not of noise but of quiet persistence, of life that does not shout but hums. You close your eyes and see an ocean in the dark, a slow current, a single shape moving in silence, and just before sleep you wonder softly, what other worlds might whisper life beneath their silence? Radio waves drift outward from Earth, a soft beacon into the void. We've sent messages, golden records, signals shaped like greetings, but the universe answers with stillness. You lean into the quiet, wondering if silence is an answer too. You lie back and close your eyes. The world falls away, and in the hush between heartbeats, you feel it, that faint, invisible pulse stretching far beyond the clouds, from towers, from satellites, from the blue swirl of Earth itself. A soft and steady whisper drifts into the dark. Radio waves. Not music anymore. Not news. Not the chatter of stations flipping through morning and midnight. Just energy, tiny hums, stretching like spider silk through space. A trail of breadcrumbs, centuries long and hundreds of light years wide. You picture it now. A glow flowing outward from Earth in every direction. Expanding, but never quite stopping. Every message we've ever broadcast, from the crackling voice of an astronaut to the static of an old sitcom, still ripples outward, a soft and ghostly archive. We began speaking to the stars before we knew who might be listening. In 1974, a message was sent, the Arecibo signal, a precise burst of data from a radio telescope, packed with math and molecules and maps of where we are, like a bottle tossed into the black sea of night. Then came the golden records bolted to the sides of the Voyager spacecrafts, a record of life on Earth, greetings in dozens of languages, the sound of footsteps, the breath of wind, a kiss, a whale's long mournful call, music, laughter, pictures carved into gold, a child's voice saying hello. They travel still, those voyagers, beyond planets, past the last pull of the sun's reach, carried by momentum and memory, each a drifting message in a language no one has yet answered. And yet, the silence is vast. No reply has ever come. You imagine that silence now, not empty, but thick with stars. Galaxies spin like snowflakes. Solar systems bloom and fade like fireflies. But through it all, no echo, no word, no whisper back. You might wonder, are we the only ones? Or are we simply too early, or too late? Maybe someone, somewhere, once tried the same, built beacons, spoke into the dark, but their messages have long since passed us, unnoticed, like two ships passing at the edge of light years. Or perhaps the universe listens in a different way, a way not of sound or signal, but of stillness. Silence, after all, is not absence. It is a kind of presence. No, a shape defined by what is not there. It invites reflection. It hums with potential. You breathe in deeply, feel your lungs fill and empty. That too is a signal that you are here, that Earth is not quiet. Because even in our silence we make sound. Earth itself sings, a planet of lightning, wind and shifting plates. Its magnetic field crackles, its atmosphere stirs. To distant ears or instruments tuned just right, our planet might sound like a heartbeat wrapped in weather. A thunderstorm might sound like music, a volcano like a slow grinding drum. And yet, in all this, the stars remain quiet. Not one has flickered with a deliberate message. No alien transmission has broken through the cosmic static. Still we keep listening. There are arrays of dishes, great open ears turned skyward waiting. They sift through radio noise. They scan for patterns that don't match nature, blips, pulses, something that says this was made on purpose. Sometimes we hear things that stir us fast, radio bursts, brief flashes from distant galaxies, strange and sudden. Are they natural, or something else? We don't yet know, but the mystery is part of the listening, and still we send. A few years ago, another message was crafted, a new, more modern hello, meant for future Earthlings or distant minds. Once again, diagrams, sounds, a map of where we are, a record of who we are. You might ask, why do we keep reaching out when no one writes back? Maybe because to be human is to speak even when no one answers. Maybe it's not about being heard, but about daring to say we exist, that we're trying, that we're not alone because we refuse to be. Out there, in some far future, one of our signals might arrive. It might cross the cold emptiness and land on a receiver, real or imagined. It might be misunderstood, or not understood at all, but maybe it won't be. Maybe someone, someday, will play that golden record and hear the sounds of rain, the greeting of a human voice, the cry of a baby, and they'll feel in that moment the echo of life from a pale blue dot. Or maybe the only ears that ever needed to hear were ours. Maybe we sent those messages to remind ourselves of what we are capable of how far we can imagine reaching. Because every signal sent is also a promise that we are still here, that we are still listening, that we are still dreaming beyond the borders of what we know. You feel that dream now, not as noise, but as possibility. The quiet between transmissions, the gentle static that fills the sky, the hush after a question that hasn't yet been answered. And in that hush you realize something soft and slow. The silence isn't frightening, it's patient. And maybe that's the kind of reply the universe gives, a deep and steady waiting, an invitation to keep asking. So you lie back, let your thoughts float outward with those signals, through the windless dark, past planets, beyond the arcs of comets and the loops of distant stars. You send your quiet question with all the others, is anyone there? And in return a stillness that hums with a strange, beautiful promise. You are not alone in asking. Even if no one answers now, something is listening, or someday will. You begin the long drift home, not in space, but in thought. You've wandered far past sunless oceans and blazing exoplanets, watched frozen methane drizzle onto distant rocks, seen skies that swirl in purple storms. You've followed the light of alien suns and touched the edges of ancient imagined shores. But now, slowly, you return, through the silence, through the stars, toward the one planet that isn't a theory or a question, but a memory in your bones. Earth. It hangs in your mind like a soft lantern, blue and quiet and impossibly intricate. Not just a place, but a presence. A whisper you've always known, even when you couldn't name it. From a distance, Earth is modest. A pale dot, less than a pixel. Seen from Saturn, it's a fleck suspended in a beam of scattered light. Yet everything you've ever loved is there. Every voice, every dream, every leaf that's ever fallen into the wind. The only place where oceans speak and trees breathe. The only place where life has reached out, curious, and asked the universe what else might be listening. You think back on what you've seen. Worlds with iron rain and glass storms. Gas giants with moons that burn or freeze or hide oceans beneath ice. All beautiful in their strangeness. All achingly distant, and yet none quite like this. Not with clouds that dance in water cycles. Not with tectonic plates that drift like continents dreaming. Nowhere else have you seen blue in motion, rivers that braid through valleys, waves that whisper onto shores, rainfall that smells like the beginning of something tender. And the air, how strange it is, when you really consider it. A blend of oxygen and nitrogen. Just so, a sky you can walk beneath, breathe within, transparent, forgiving, alive. It is so easy to forget, when you're always within it. But after 1,000 imagined worlds, Earth feels like an anomaly, a fluke too perfect to be mere chance. The way the sun warms it just enough, but not too much. The way the moon steadies its wobble like a patient hand, the way the magnetosphere wraps around it like a shield, deflecting the fury of space. Perhaps it isn't the average that we assumed. Perhaps it is a rare alignment of improbable things. And so the question shifts, not just is there anyone else out there, but how did this happen here? The search for exoplanets once began with telescopes and equations, but it's become something more, a longing, almost, a soft ache to understand whether we are typical or rare, a single note in a cosmic song or the whole song itself. You've scanned the shadows of stars, watched for dimming that hints at orbiting companions. You've mapped temperatures, atmospheres, hints of water vapor, but again and again, Earth remains the most astonishing of them all. Even its imperfections are part of the wonder, the thin crust that shifts and trembles, the storms that spin across oceans, the deserts, the ice, the deep volcanic breaths from beneath. It's a planet in motion, always adjusting, always alive, and then life. Not in simple forms, but in riotous complexity. Coral reefs that bloom like underwater cities, forests that speak through root and mycelium, birds that migrate without maps, cells that divide with whispered memory. And somewhere in all this, you are being made of atoms that once danced in stars, now wondering, watching, asking. You realize now that every exoplanet you visited was not just a search for another Earth. It was a search for context, for meaning, for scale. Each alien world helped you see your own more clearly, like stepping away from a painting to see its colors bloom. Mars taught you about silence, Europa taught you about hidden depths, Kepler 186 Frauth showed you the thrill of potential, but Earth teaches you intimacy, the kind of familiarity that breeds both comfort and blindness. It's only through distance that the fragile beauty becomes obvious. Like seeing your own breath in cold air, always there, but only visible when the conditions allow. You think of future explorers, of rovers humming across alien dunes, of telescopes peering into spectral light for hints of chlorophyll, of algorithms searching for patterns that feel familiar, and maybe, someday, of messages, faint signals drifting across time from minds we've never met. But even if we find them, even if we confirm we're not alone, this planet will still be the first, the cradle, the mirror that taught us what to look for. Maybe Earth isn't a stepping stone, maybe it's the destination we've been circling all along. And maybe, just maybe, the impulse to search the stars is not about escape or conquest, but about understanding, about reflecting, about returning home with eyes that now see. You breathe. The thought of home settles softly in your chest. It is quiet now. Stars wheel above, silent in their endless spin. But in this quiet, something blooms, not knowledge, exactly, but wonder. A feeling that you are not apart from the universe, but part of its unfolding. That the thin blue world beneath your feet is not ordinary, not replaceable, not just one planet of many. It is your only story, and it is still being written. Still you wonder, not with fear, but with gentleness, what comes next. Because just beyond the glow of Earth's atmosphere, in the spaces still unvisited, something waits, a flicker, a hint, a question not yet asked.